The city of Boston is made up of 23 neighborhoods, each one with its own character, style, and history. The Back Bay isn't the oldest neighborhood in Boston, and it isn't the newest, but it is a prime example of the spirit and ingenuity it takes to grow and develop a city into what Oliver Wendell Holmes once called the hub of the solar system. Whether you're looking for art, commerce, spirituality, or culture, the Back Bay has something for you.
400 years ago in the Back Bay, you would have been standing in tidal flats. These are the areas where my ancestors would have been during the warmer months, building fish weirs to passively collect resources. Fish weirs would have been on the precipice of being technologically advanced of the time.
This is one of the earliest photographs we have that really depict what the Back Bay looked like before major landfill. What we can see here is the foot of the public garden, which basically backed up onto marshland. You can see the mill dam, which has become Beacon Street, and then this huge wide open expanse of tidal estuary. So this atlas plate is depicting 1902, and it's a moment of profound change in this neighborhood. You can see the rail lines coming in here from the west. This is Dartmouth Street, Berkeley Street. Stewart Street is just a stub at this point. One really important project we did here at the Leventhal Center was to digitize and digitally transform more than 100 of these atlases and build a web portal around them called Atlascope. We can go back to 1895 and see the active rail facilities of the Boston Providence. As we follow it to the east and north, you can see the terminal facility at this time owned by the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad.
Welcome to the Stewart Street Park Square area. I'll be your wheelman today. We're coming up on a castle. This is a 20th century neighborhood that is wedged between two 19th century neighborhoods, being the Back Bay and the South End. It was the end of the Boston Providence Railroad Terminal. When the terminal was removed, these buildings were put in its place, the very first one being Payne Furniture. Remnants of the building are in the back in the ghost sign where it says Payne Furniture. Behind me is the Statler Hotel and Statler Park. Next to that is the Motormart Garage, and this was a parking garage that served all of your motorist needs. But if you just follow me here to the left, you'll see that we have a castle. This castle behind me was actually built as an armory for the First Corps of Cadets. The cadets have become what is now known as the National Guard, and the building has been adaptively reused as an events venue.
In 1883 here, you can see an empty lot that's been dedicated to the public library. It hasn't been built yet. If we go a little further, in 1898, we can see the neighborhood filled out. BPL has now been built.
The Central Library here is the McKim building, named for the architects McKim, Mead, and White. Opened in 1895, the Boston Public Library is not just the first large municipally funded library in the United States of America, we're also the first system to have a branch and the first to lend books for free. We have 3 incredible sets of murals throughout this building. The first set are those by Puvis de Chavannes. The second set of murals are those by Edward Abbey. And then the Sargent Gallery tells the story of the triumph of religion through the eyes of this incredible painter and artist. Today's public library is vibrant and dynamic. And of course, every April, we become the finish line for the Boston Marathon.
From the Boston Public Library, you can see 2 architectural wonders, the legendary Trinity Church and New Old South Church. These buildings were built 1 year apart and were originally located in downtown Crossing. As downtown transitioned to a business district with fewer residents, both congregations considered relocation.
Old South is a place that we value very strongly being an active part of the community. Samuel Adams was a member of the church. His job for the revolution was a rabble-rouser. He would be supplied with money by the Sons of Liberty, and he would go out to bars and he would buy everybody rounds upon rounds of drinks and get them well lubricated, and then would start angrily denouncing the British and getting everybody riled up, and then send them out into the streets to cause trouble for the Redcoats. For the church, what he did was very similar, because he would lead the singing for the congregation. And to do either of these things, to rouse up the rabble or to lead singing in a congregational church, you need a powerful voice. He was an important and active leader in the congregation.
When I welcome people here to Trinity, I usually congratulate them and tell them that they've chosen very well in terms of a building to see here in Boston. One critic at the time called it, it's like being inside a painting. Trinity, unlike the typical church of the time, has a unique collection of stained glass windows. John Lafarge is a painter, but he's always interested in ways of creating the image in glass with less use of paint. And so he innovates in a new opalescent glass. The other thing that he starts to do is to layer or plate the glass. This changed everything. Lafarge shares his ideas with a man called Louis Comfort Tiffany, and he takes Lafarge's basic concepts and becomes really the much better known of the two.
And we have a good old green light here. It's on our side. We're going to continue down through the neighborhood. A worthy detour is the Salada Tea Company. The doors behind me were sculpted in 1928 and depict the Ceylon tea industry of the 1920s. While you're looking at the doors, look behind you to see the 3 Hancock buildings. That spire is the weather beacon. It is currently being switched to LEDs.
When I first went in the telephone company, I was on Belvedere Street, which is not too far from here. John Hancock was the tallest building, and people did look up at it to see what the weather was going to be. There's a poem that goes with the weather vane. It's steady blue, clear view, flashing blue, clouds due, steady red, rain ahead, flashing red, snow instead. It's kind of hidden now. It's not as prominent as it was in the late 40s.
Just across from the Hancock Building stands a great example of the wealth of colleges and universities throughout the greater Boston area. Unable to join social clubs created specifically for alumni of schools like Harvard or Boston University, a group of young men founded the University Club in 1891 for alumni of schools within a 50-mile radius of Boston.
Our neighbor building was built originally in 1925. This building was built soon after that. This was more the athletic component, and 40 Trinity was more the function space, overnight rooms, and so on. Back in 2019, sold our rights to what is now the Raffles Hotel, and we used that money to completely redo the club pretty much from top to bottom. The evolution of this club is all men, then women are allowed, and then as time goes on, we start becoming a real family club. We currently have over 800 children here, and I think for us, that innovation has really served us very well.
Right behind me is the Youth Companion Building. It was built in 1892 by the Perry Mason Publishing Company. Not long after that, the Pledge of Allegiance was both written and published here. Traffic, I swear. On the other end of the district, we have the Stanhope Street Stables. These are the oldest surviving buildings of the neighborhood, built in 1868. Essentially, this is the parking garage of the 19th century.
Not all of Back Bay's treasures are from the 19th century. 140 Clarendon Street was once home to the first YWCA in the nation. Boston's YWCA rebranded as YW Boston and still resides in this building. One mainstay of the building is Lyric Stage Boston, the city's oldest regional theater.
Lyric Stage Boston started as Lyric Stage Company in 1974 and moved over here to Back Bay in 1991, and we've been here ever since. We tell stories, and those stories often reflect the lives of the people who live in the city. We have a very diverse community. We have all sorts of stories that we tell, and every season we're telling new stories.
In our last stop, we have Frida Garcia Park, named for Frida Garcia, a community activist and notable Bostonian. And look who we have here, it's Frida Garcia.
Hello,
Frida, how are you?
Good. Nice day, isn't it? Look at this little one coming in, running in.
How does it feel to be sitting in the Frida Garcia Park?
I like that it's not your traditional slides and stuff. It's challenging. That's what it is. I like that. I like that. When you look at it, there is not any other space for children anywhere near that neighborhood. And so it was an incredible gift to a neighborhood that didn't have that kind of open space.
When we at the Boston Preservation Alliance look at historic buildings, like those in the Back Bay, it's not only our goal to preserve the rich architecture and beauty of the buildings, but to also preserve the stories of the people in the buildings. Filling in the Back Bay was a spark of innovation that showed the city's possibilities. And when we look at the Back Bay now, we continue to see a tradition of innovation that reverberates well beyond a single neighborhood. As we continue to develop as a city, country, and global community, let's move forward with the Back Bay spirit and marvel at our possibilities. Boston never gets old.